Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese.
Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, the guy get a seat!
For the love of palmetto cheese. Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Primetime Sports. I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and I am looking forward to the show today because last week we had the Tulane quarterbacks. This week we're going to start the run of LSU guys. I got three big ones coming next week, but Josh Booty is going to join us. Josh Booty was the #1 player coming out of high school, and they decided to go take a record contract signing bonus from the draft to go play for the Marlins, but he came back to LSU and was all SEC. We'll get into him and his story, and then next week, like I said, we'll have three more. And also, we're going to have Kyle France, who obviously is the guy that runs the development of the Dome, all the stuff that's going on with the Dome renovation, and it's beautiful. Like, you're not going to believe it when you see it for the first game or the preseason game if you go to those. And also, we're going to talk to Paul Sanchez about the Saints. And speaking of the Saints, let's get there right now. Big win last night. They had a ton of penalties. We know that, but they got the W and stacked these things up. They don't mean anything really, but they got, winning these kind of games helps your morale, your momentum, and just keep winning. Who cares if it's preseason? They won 22-17. They look good at times. Kendra Miller got a touchdown. He looked great on a wheel route pass he caught. It was a beautiful toss and a beautiful catch. Jake Haener came off the bench, looked phenomenal. Jameis Winston played decent, okay. But the fact is I'm looking forward to this team and going forward. They have a preseason game next Sunday at home against Houston, and then they'll open the season a few weeks later. You know that. They're going to open against the Tennessee Titans on September 10th. We got a big show for you, and I cannot wait to get it out to you because we're going to have fun. We're going to talk Saints next. We're going to talk about all the positions and what my man Paul Sanchez thinks about it right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. You know, we have had Tulane quarterbacks last week. We had an LSU quarterback coming up, Josh Booty, and next week we got three LSU quarterbacks. But let's take a break and talk about what we love down here in New Orleans, the New Orleans Saints. That's right. The Saints season starts in a few weeks, 2 preseason games down, 2 more to go. Then they play a week after that. You know, the college football season starts first, Labor Day weekend for the local teams. You know, LSU plays Florida State. Of course, Tulane kicks it off against South Alabama. But the pros come right after that, the week after Labor Day. But we're going to talk about the Saints. And remember last year, I had my man Paul Sanchez, the musician, the singer, songwriter, the bard of New Orleans. Well, he came on during Jazz Fest to talk music. But last year, this time, we talked football because he's a New Orleanian just like we all are. He loves his Saints, and that's such a blast. We're going to do this every preseason before the season starts. But here he is again, Paul Sanchez. How are you, Bumpy?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
First, I'm going to get music out the way because I know you've been rolling.
Oh, yeah.
And you were in Chicago. Tell me what's going on in your career right now.
I was up in Wisconsin at a festival there with Alex McMurray and his band, and then we played Chicago together. Alex and I are friends, and I love using his band. It's a great bunch of players. It's
Right.
Joe Cabral from the Iguanas, and Glenn Hartman from the Klezmer All-Stars, and Andre Bowen on drums from Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Notes.
Oh
It's
my
like an
gosh.
all-star band.
That's what I'm saying. Do y'all like doing this? Is this? It's kind of like when the athletes get together and they all hang in some kind of celebrity all-star game. Do y'all like doing this a lot?
Yeah, I mean, you're playing with the best in the city, so it brings out the best in you. Just like, I guess, with athletes, it ups their game to play with somebody.
No doubt.
You want to bring your best when you're playing with people like that. So that was fun, and I'm doing a show this Sunday at the BK Historic House in the French Quarter.
I think I'm going to be there, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard about this because I'm flying back from San Diego. I have a game, and I have my 30th year of this college fantasy draft I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
But I heard you were there, and I was trying to maneuver to get there, but I'm going to try to make it over there because I know
It's an early
event.
show. It's at 6 in the evening, and the people there wanted to do something to commemorate the 19th anniversary of the Katrina and the flood.
Yeah.
So I have some friends, Vance Vaucresson,
Nice.
who not only owns Vaucresson Sausage on St. Bernard, but he's a great singer.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he's going to come sing some of the songs that he sang on the album, and Debbie Davis.
Now, how many great sausage makers are also great singers? He might be one of the only ones.
In New Orleans, he's the only one that I know of. And I mean, how many other cities have as much musical talent that are also part of the working community?
Right.
And that's
Chicago might be my only thought, but I have to think, your boy, what's his name again?
Vance Vaucresson.
Vance might be the only one.
Well, he's a part of the Boutte family as well. So we're talking about a special musical family, He's and his voice it lives up to the billing.
Are we talking about the same Boutte family when you wrote the song about the,
Foot of Canal Street.
The foot of Canal Street. You looked at your family on one side.
Yeah,
and
John
you said his
Boutte
family?
and I were walking at the foot of Canal Street by the cemeteries, and he said, "You know what, baby, my father's buried there." And I said, "Man, that's something else we got in common. My daddy's buried right across the street." And he smiled at me. He said, "You know what, baby, black or white, we all gonna meet at the foot of Canal Street."
What, the foot of Canal? One cemetery is mostly black. One cemetery was primarily white, right? No matter what color we are, we're all going to meet there one day, right?
That's right.
I love it. Well, let's talk some football. Let's get some quick background real quick. I'll pop that.
That's you?
We'll get some background real quick on your love of the Saints. How about that?
This is your show.
I know, but your love of the Saints, how did it all start?
Oh, man. Well, there's Tulane Stadium in '67, so I was 7 years old when they started, and we were really poor. And my uncle, Dick Burke, was an assessor in the Irish Channel. And sometimes he'd get free tickets to games, and he'd give us, a ticket to go to the game. So I've been going to see Saints games since I was a little boy, since Tulane Stadium, and through the hardest of times. I mean, I
watched some
pounding the floor when they were about to make the playoffs, and the field goal just missed.
Don't get me started. 78 was the first year we started feeling like, okay, there's hope. 7-9. Before that, 5 wins was the most we had, and that was, I've said all the time, we threw parades for 5 wins.
Oh yeah, we got excited for 5 wins.
5-9. There was a 14-game schedule back then. Was the best. Then we went 7-9, then 8-8. And Archie was the Player of the Year one of those years, and he went to the Pro Bowl both those years, and we're like. And then the bottom dropped out. We know in 1980 the Saints became the Aints, 1-15.
Yeah.
But we had the '83 year, that field goal that went for the Rams that made it.
Yes.
And we just were so close. But here, it's a different era now. Now this is in fact, I love seeing players come that are being interviewed after games. Like last night, I saw Shaq Davis talking about, hey, this is the franchise I always wanted to play for.
He was impressive, man. I got to tell you, the receiver battle, there's been some interesting things going into camp. I wasn't really worried about receiver, because if Michael Thomas comes back healthy, Olave's bound for superstardom. The kid's so fast.
He's so good.
And Rashid Shaheed, I mean, he came out of nowhere to me, he's got a lock.
You think Shaq could be this year's Rashid?
I think
in a different kind of player, but I mean,
he's a big physical player, and that's a great third or fourth wide receiver to have. So he went up and took the ball away from 2 cornerbacks.
Well, that's a lot of competition
night.
for that third, fourth, fifth spot.
It is.
You got Kirkland, Kirkwood.
I think that those guys are in trouble. Who's the receiver? Brian Edwards. Trying to make the team. He had 2 crucial holding calls
Former high
last
pick,
night.
by the way, out of South Carolina. I mean, this guy.
I know. And I had high hopes for him, and I'm not down on him. him. He just had an unlucky night. He had two holding calls where both holding calls cost us a touchdown.
Yeah.
Then he missed a pass that was right in his hands, and he missed a little bit more difficult pass, but it was in his hands. And I just thought, that poor kid, he's having a rough night, like on the stage where you don't want to.
You don't want to do it. I mean, you know,
it's down to last cuts.
Unfortunately, you can practice all you want and be great, but when the light comes on, you don't perform. I hate that it's like, you know, you only have a few times, because preseason you don't get many options because they have to play so many different guys.
Right.
You really got to perform. But I think that's one of the dudes that they're going to look at. I'm not saying he's going to make the team, but you know he's got potential. He was drafted in the second round.
He's got potential. It's a crowded field at wide receiver right now. I saw some real players there. And then Kendra Miller was impressive. I have to say, I don't know if I agree with them playing him with a brace, if he's as good as he seems to be.
I was a little surprised he played, because I was hearing first game of the season, which is really like 3-4 weeks away.
That made more sense to me, especially showing what he showed. Like, I wouldn't put him back on the field next week.
Right.
He's already shown you that he's good enough to be on the team.
Well, let's talk
Williams,
about him real quick, because I want to talk about Kendra, because, you know, obviously Kamara's going to miss the first three games. So do you think, you know, you have Jamal Williams, but Jamal's your banger. I mean, he can play all downs if you need him to, but he's your banger to get inside. He's going to play a lot. Probably will start. Maybe Kendra will start. But you see Kendra Miller there. This guy's a guy I saw a lot at TCU, because we do, when I work with Tim Brando every week, when we do Pac-12, Big 12, and Big 10, and they were good last year, so we always get a good game. We had them 3 times, and I watched this kid. And he didn't play in the national championship game. And Georgia, it was 67-7, I believe. They would have only won by 50 if he had played. But the thing is, he didn't play. But my point is, he's very good. And I think he's going to fit in this offense. And I think he's going to play a lot those first 3 games.
I do too. I think, especially with Kamara out those first 3 games, I would like to have seen more out of Darrell Williams last night. He was one of the touchdown runs.
He just got here, though, right?
He had a touchdown run that got called back because of the Edwards holding penalty. Yeah. And it was a great run. And I thought, as soon as he made it, I thought, that's why he's here. Because if we got him in the back, then you got a solid veteran who can catch and run.
He's always been a guy that has been a great locker room guy, but he comes in and performs everywhere he's been. He's never been the star. He came in with Leonard Fournette at LSU. Whenever Fournette, you know, then Geis came in, he was kind of the forgotten guy, but whenever he played, he performed, and then goes to the Chiefs, Super Bowl champion, right?
Yeah.
And he gets a ring, and they've had injuries, and all of a sudden he was starting for almost a season.
Yep.
And, you know, so this is a guy that can play. And I feel that there's great depth there, particularly when Kamara comes back.
Yeah, I think they actually have difficult choices at that position. They have some great running backs to choose from. The surprise for me has been linebacker.
Let's talk there.
It was my biggest area of concern going into the season.
I feel good about it right now. But
I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith changed the whole.
Well, I didn't know what he had left in the tank. You know,
I didn't either, but boy,
he's not old, though.
He was balling last night, man.
I just, you know, he came in and the Cowboys took the big risk, right? He was hurt that whole year.
Right.
And then he played great. And I don't know what their situation was. I wasn't following it super close. But when I saw we got him, I said, there must be some really damaged goods here. But then I'm like watching him last night all over the field like he's playing to survive. You know what I'm saying?
He's probably playing to show Mike McCarthy that he's made yet another mistake.
Another mistake. Yet another one, Cowboy fans. Our producer's a Cowboy guy, so let's not get too deep into that.
I won't go there.
He makes us look good, so we don't want to dog his team. But you may be right. But the fact is, you got to love Pete Werner, right?
Pete Werner's solid. And, of course, Demario Davis. One of the
greatest human beings.
One of the greatest
players.
finds we've had in the history of the franchise, really.
Him and Vilma, are 2 of the great ones.
But you did have to worry about the depth behind them.
I like Zach Bond. We always seem to go over Zach, but I like him for what he does. Utility, come in, do some things. He's fast.
But we needed more. I like him in the same way.
But Jalen Smith gives us physicality.
Yes, you needed somebody that could match up with Demario. That's gonna take some of the pressure off of him. You know, because right now they can go after Demario and take our legs off at linebacker. But if you got Pete Werner and you got Jalen Smith, and then if some of the younger guys come around, you know, DeMarco Jackson would be a nice addition. He's looked good.
Well, man, I didn't know how much you would actually keep up with. I mean, this guy's all he knows. Paul, I knew you know first and second teamers. You're naming third and fourth teamers now, and I'm like, okay, it's wide open. We're gonna talk about
this is the chance for everybody. This is where you can find out. First of all, if the management's moves were correct, because they did roll the dice on some things. They rolled the dice on linebacker, and they rolled the dice on defensive front. And I was concerned. They took care of that with Jalen Smith. I think linebacker is going to be really solid. Defensive front was not a surprise to me because I thought Granderson could step up.
I did too.
When they let Onyemata go, I thought, I even said to a friend, don't worry about it. Granderson's going to be a younger Onyemata.
Wow, but different body type though.
Different body type, but he gets to the quarterback.
He's faster for sure.
He's faster.
Yeah.
And then you got, I think Peyton he's got to be in his heart ready to show
I feel
that he's
Peyton
a number
Turner's
one. You know what I'm
on.
saying?
I feel Peyton Turner's coming. He's a former first-round pick.
He looked at last night, and he had a look in his eye that said, I'm going to show you people.
Speaking of first-rounders, what about the guy in the middle, Brian Brucey?
I like him so far.
He got the fumble recovery. We saw that. Yeah. And he's got a motor. You know, it reminds me, I'm take people back a little bit, back when the guy named David Pollock played at Georgia. He was defensive line, he ended up being a top 5-10 pick in the NFL. He had some injuries, but this got this motor that just keeps ticking and going, and you don't think this guy is going to get by you, but he always does. Brissy could be that from the middle. And
he's fast for a big guy.
Yeah.
Or quick, whatever it is, because he does get around people. I like him a lot. So I'm extremely encouraged with what I've seen. And then the quarterback situation, Derek Carr came in last week and answered all questions for me with the one drive. To me, he looks like a 6'3" Drew Brees. It's a similar scenario. I know people go, wait a minute.
No,
Drew,
I'm with you. I'm listening. I'm listening for a reason.
It was 9 years in. He's a former number one draft pick who gets let go by his team.
Maybe early second.
Oh, I thought he was number one. But at any rate, he was their guy.
His brother was.
His brother was.
Yeah.
He was their guy, and then they let him go. No, we're not going to trade you. You're not worth anything to us. We're going to cut you. So he comes here with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
And bulked up, man.
He looks the part.
He looks the part.
And I'm going to say this. I'm agreeing with you 100%. Okay, it is blasphemy in this city to say anything about comparing anybody to Drew Brees, but the leadership that I'm seeing, you know, with all due respect to the guys they've had the last 2 years, they just weren't Drew Brees even close. This guy at least gives you a resemblance.
I like Jameis.
Of things he does, yeah, and I do too.
And I watched him last night, and I thought, I'm so glad we have Derek Carr.
Right.
Because Jameis was an experiment, and there's just things about him. He's a really exciting player. He's also really unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I thought when we got him, and I still think, that if he takes the reins of offense, you have to change the offense.
Yeah.
Which isn't what you really want in a backup quarterback.
And I'm not an anti-Jameis guy either. I mean, I'm the guy that felt like it's been taken up for him for 3 years.
I think he could be a starter someplace else.
No doubt.
I think to me, Haener looked fantastic.
Oh my goodness.
He gets better like every time.
Drew Brees, leadership guy.
He makes those kind of quick decisions Drew used to make.
He does.
The ball's out of his hands fast.
So we feel good about the quarterback position?
I feel really good about it across the board.
I can tell by your little wry smile when you're talking about him. You're like, I feel really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had question marks, and of course he threw an interception on his first pass last week, so you go, okay, let's see. But he came in looking sharp and stayed that way.
You know, I used to go to camp every day. I did it when I lived in Atlanta, and I was traveling with, doing other training camps and just hitting them. And then when I moved here, I went every day. The Heat here, and then I went over to West Virginia for 3 years. I haven't gone this year yet. I'm gonna go Tuesday or Wednesday. I think tomorrow.
I hope to one of the indoor sessions.
Today's Tuesday. Wednesday. I'm gonna go because I got invited by some Saints folks. I want to go check it out. But the fact is, I don't see them like I used to. So I don't really know. But I've heard that Marshawn Lattimore, until he got dinged up, has been looking the best of anybody out there. And I want to know how concerned you are with this injury. We don't exactly know.
I think that it was a preseason injury. I think it was like a
quote unquote.
Well, probably a real injury. Probably he strained something.
But when they don't risk it.
Not so bad that he wouldn't have played if it was regular season.
Yeah.
But bad enough to go. Marshawn's great. Let's not put him back on the field. Let's wait till he's healthy. He is hurt, but it's not going to.
Well, I think he's motivated because listen, he started hearing the people saying he's not that great anymore, and I think it was more than a few national people as well. And so, you know, you have a Debo, you have obviously the young guy from last year coming in.
Well, also you got I liked Malcolm Jenkins, but Tyrann Mathieu,
Yeah.
that brings your defense to a whole nother level.
Particularly the second half of the season. We saw the Tyrann Mathieu we hoped to get, and early on it wasn't quite that way. But I'm going to say this. Once again, if healthy, I feel strongly that they can win this division, and I feel strongly that they might be able to do damage in an NFC that is not stacked. And we say that now. Things change.
Things change, of course.
And you never really know. But the fact is you look at some teams out there, you're like, the Saints can play with any of them.
I agree. And from what I saw yesterday, I'm really excited for the first game of the season.
I think the Saints and Cowboys may be on that same level. I mean, for me, looking right now, but I mean, everybody's talking about Philly, San Francisco. Looks to be a step above, but I don't see there any problem with potentially beating either one of those teams if the Saints are healthy.
No, same for me. I feel confident in beating both of those teams. We did last year.
What about the Swiss Army knife, Taysom Hill?
Taysom is a complicated subject because what Taysom is, he's one of the most talented athletes I've ever seen on a football field, who happens to want to be a quarterback.
Right.
And what I hope that he understands, with all humility, is that the guys that are starting in the NFL have been working at that moment since they were 5 years old, which he did too. But then he took a few years off to do his service for the Mormons, which is beautiful and commendable, and I admire him for it because he's loyal to his faith. But in that time, guys that didn't take time off to do service were developing their quarterbacking skills.
Yeah.
And so they're much further down the road than he is. Quite frankly, he'd be a great receiver. You know, tight end is cool just because he's a big guy, but he's also really fast.
He's so fast.
So if you had a guy that big and that fast who can catch.
Well, does he make the team? I mean, because he has a salary. I mean, I think he's at $10 million a year.
His salary is such that he sort of has to make the team, and he is a good.
Well, not everything's guaranteed in the NFL. I know there's some.
I know Sean's interested. He's expressing.
Oh, sure, Sean loves him.
So I
don't want to lose Taysom Hill. I like him on our team. I just need to.
Where does he fit?
Well, you do what you do with them. You know, put them in when you need to, like when you make some crazy plays.
That's an expensive, crazy play. That's, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, the margin of victory in the NFL is like this.
But what wins is consistency.
I hear you.
You know, so you got great receivers. Now you got some great.
By the way, the Saints had the best record in the NFL for 4 years combined, from 17 to 20. In the NFL, even better than the Chiefs. So Taysom was a part of that for at least 3 of those. So I think that you can win.
I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great. I don't think they found quite where to use him.
You're worried about the offensive line because I always seem the last couple of years in particular, the injuries pile up, and you're playing journeyman. I mean, it seems like Pete's always hurt. I mean, who?
Andrews Pete is he's such a wonderful player, but I think he's been hurt every year for the last.
It feels like since he started.
Since he like
14.
And then, of course, Ramczyk is awesome. I'm loving
Trevor Penning.
Yeah, I mean,
Trevor Penning.
He's got such a chip on his shoulder.
You gotta love Hurst being the gadget guy coming in wherever, and obviously, the Cesar Ruiz is the guy that we have to figure out.
That's the guy that I was just going to mention. I was going to say I had such hopes for him when he got here, and it hasn't turned out like I thought. He's not. I wouldn't say he wouldn't make the team, but I'd say he certainly hasn't solidified himself as a starter yet.
Well, speaking of better than you thought or not as well as you thought, this was way better than I thought, and I already knew it was going to be great. I knew you knew the Saints, and we've talked about the old Saints and the Saints through the years, and I knew you knew this team too, but I didn't know you knew it this well. I really didn't. And here we are talking about third, fourth, fifth stringers. Man, you never cease to amaze me.
It was Bobby Hebert's birthday this week.
I do know that because he and Morton were born on the same day, same year. And, Bobby always, because my birthday was last week, so we always.
Year?
He's 5 years older than me. He was 60. I'm 65.
I was 1959.
So your birthday's right here, too?
No, mine's in November, but I just like to pretend.
So
it's
you're older than
birthday.
those guys. But Morton and him, they do their annual call. I was with them on air 2 years ago, I guess, when I was still at WWL. Yeah, those guys. And those are two of the greats. They're both on my balls here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Two
love
of the
them.
best.
Hey, I think, from what I remember, you like these Taz shirts.
But especially in this weather. To go walking and working out in these shirts as opposed to a normal T-shirt.
Are you going to let your wife have one?
You know, she's my walking partner, so yeah.
So you have a bunch of these, and I'll get you another, but we're going to give your wife one this time.
Allison will appreciate
All right,
the
Allison.
t-shirt.
We're also, I know she loves Shays de la Shays.
The last thing she said when she left for work this morning was, are you going to get a gift certificate for Shays de la
Okay,
Shays?
because now I do Mr. John's and Shays de la Shays, so I'm going to give you all the Shays de la Shays. Evan's getting that, which means my man Kyle France is going to be getting the Mr. John's.
All right.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
I love his smile. You know, he's one of our treasures here, for real. Paul Sanchez in music in this town will go down as one of the greatest of all time, and I truly believe that. Go look at his albums. I got one sitting right there. Can we get that wide shot again? Tell me about that, how old that one was.
That one came out in '93, but it was only on CD because there were no albums back then.
They weren't.
So a couple of years ago, albums got popular, and I had it repressed onto
I have
vinyl.
so much vinyl from the 70s and early 80s, and then you're right, it kind of disappeared. But I'm glad you brought that's a present, and I appreciate that. Last week I got an eFit NOLA present, not expecting, and I certainly wasn't expecting that either, but thank you once again, Paul. So check him out anytime you see in Gambit or something that Paul Sanchez is playing, get out there and go, because he doesn't do it as regularly as he used to. So get out there and check it out, because you're not going to be seeing him all the time anymore. All right, so coming up next, one of my favorites. His name is Josh Booty. You remember him, 1993 Player of the Year in the country over a guy named Peyton Manning, the #1 player USA Today. He spurned go and play college football because he got the biggest contract in history for a rookie coming out, $1.6 million signing bonus, which was the record back then to go play for the Marlins. He did that for a while. He went back to LSU as an all-SEC quarterback in '99, played '99 and 2000, and then he played a little bit in the NFL. But he is one of my favorites, and he is one of the LSU quarterbacks that I've been talking about we're going to have for the next few weeks. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Inspired by the culture and spirit of New Orleans, the contemporary abstract and figurative work of Tony Mose and the urban expressionist art and jewelry of Tracy Mose are now on display and available at Esom Art Galleries. Esom Art Galleries are artist-owned and are located in Uptown New Orleans on Magazine Street and on Royal Street in the heart of the French Quarter. Esom Art Galleries, inspiration from the soul of New Orleans. Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, remember last week we had a couple Tulane legendary quarterbacks on the show. Next week I got 3 LSU guys, but I got one right now. We just finished talking a lot of Saints, and I got to give LSU some love. One of my all-time favorites. I got to know him a little bit in 1993. Let me take you back to that era. There was 2 guys from Louisiana, both the #1 and 2 prospects in the entire country. Josh Booty and a guy named Peyton Manning. And I still have the paper that has Josh Booty, USA Today, full cover, spread color picture of him, first team All-American Player of the Year in the country. And he ended up going, he was committed to LSU, ended up going to play baseball. He was the 5th overall pick in the draft by the Marlins, got a record signing bonus, $1.6 million. At that time, that was huge. And that lured him away to go play baseball instead of LSU. But he came back to LSU And he was an all-SEC quarterback in 1999, played for a couple years, and then went on to be drafted by the Seattle Seahawks and played for the Browns. And he has been one of the great guys I've known for years. I've ran into him one night with John Brady. We were hanging out, and then I've ran into another night with Rock and Doopsie, and I see him at airports. But he's a guy that will always go down at LSU lore as one of these guys that we've heard about forever, and he ended up playing both baseball and basketball. We're going to get into that two sports stuff. But here he is, Josh Booty from West Palm Beach right now. How you doing, my friend? How you doing? You good?
I'm doing awesome. I appreciate you having me on. I feel honored. Of course, you know, every time I see you, whether it is in an airport or at a New Orleans establishment, we always have fun, man. I appreciate your friendship.
It's always great, man. I mean, it's 30 years. I remember, and I've had your brother Abram on. I'd become an agent by the time John David was going through, but I mean, and then obviously you have relatives and your friends, Brock Berlin, all of them, but that was such a lineage there. And let's just take back real quick. I just want to take back to when, did you know Peyton Manning in high school? Because y'all both came out in 2004 was your graduating year, but your last year of high school, 1994 I meant, and 1993 was the last, obviously that's in the fall when you played. But take me back to if you knew him and you knew that competition between y'all as far as the top player in the country.
Oh, yeah. We went to several functions together, and we were getting some awards together. And, of course, we kept up with each other. And, you know, Shreveport Evangel and New Orleans Newman never got to play each other. But so we were always in other divisions, and we would compare notes. We'd compare stats. You know, and then I was the USA Today Player of the Year. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year. We were the top 2 recruits in the country from different publications. However you looked at it, it was always either him or I. You know, we had a guy, Patrick Surtain, was an option quarterback that came out the same year, and I think Jake Delhomme was the year or year after. There was a bunch of good quarterbacks coming out that time in Louisiana, and so. You know, LSU had recruited me hard. I think everybody thought Manning was going to go to Ole Miss, ended up going to Tennessee. But at the time, you know, I was worried about baseball too. I wasn't really worried about where Peyton was going or, you know, or whatnot, or if he even went to LSU. I really wasn't worried about it. I wanted to play baseball for Skip Bertman, and I felt like I could play football with anybody in the country at the quarterback position. So I was just wanting to go to the best place that had, you know, 2 good sports at the time, and LSU baseball was at the height of its run, really, with Skip Bertman. And Ty Walker, you know, was the 8th pick overall, right behind me in the '94 draft. But when I was coming out as a senior, I knew that I was going to have a chance to play shortstop at LSU and potentially quarterback. And Jamie Howard, another great LSU quarterback, was playing there at the time, and Curly Hallman was there. And you know, they weren't a great passing team, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to, of course, play football because I'm a quarterback. My dad was a quarterback. My family's a football family. But baseball, I knew I could play shortstop for LSU, and that's really where I wanted to be, and ended up playing professional baseball. But so Peyton really wasn't anybody that got it in my way in terms of recruiting, because I knew I wanted to play at LSU. I wanted to be their shortstop and potentially their quarterback, and ended up being able to do that later on in life. But yes, I knew Peyton. My dad knew Archie. You know, Eli was a little kid at that time. He was much younger than us, so he hadn't even, you know, he hadn't even probably entered into high school. My brother Abram was a freshman receiver and was a senior on my state title team. We won a title in the Superdome my senior year, and that was Evangel's first title. But I remember going on a recruiting trip to LSU, and Peyton was actually there with me. And I came in the stadium, and the LSU fans were chanting, "Booty, booty, booty." And Manning goes, "What's all this noise?" You know, and I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe, you know, maybe I need to go to LSU, but you go somewhere else to Ole Miss or something. I always thought he was going to go to Ole Miss, and he ended up at Tennessee.
He ended up saying that on the show I was on. I was producing. I wasn't on it back in 1994. We didn't come on to say where he's going to college. We had started that show that you were on and all them. But he looked at the camera, and out of the blue said, "Hey, I decided to go to Tennessee." And he looked back at the host and looked back at the camera, and he winked at the camera and said, "I think I made a good choice," and I almost fell over in my producer chair. I'm like, what? Did he just commit to Tennessee on this show out of the blue? That was crazy. I mean, and then obviously he was one of the great all-time college quarterbacks, and we know his record speaks for itself in the NFL. Certainly one of the top 5 in anybody's book there. But I want to take you back to when you made your decisions, because You threw for 11,700 yards in your high school career. No player in the history of high school football had thrown for even 10,000. And you missed your last 4 games with injury. You could have put that number 12-5 or something even bigger. But the fact is when you got that call from USA Today and they said, hey, you're our player of the year. You're the guy we're going to put in the middle of the spread, like the big picture that's almost a full-page picture, and they put all the other first-teamers on the side. I have every edition since Emmitt Smith got that in the mid-'80s all the way up to about 2010. So I have 25 years of those, and they're in a box right now in storage. So I remember it well, Josh, but when you got that call, tell me what your thoughts were right then.
Oh, dude, I was floored. I know there's great players all over the country, and I was more happy for Evangel, I think, and my dad, coaching there with Denny Duran at the time and us establishing that school in North Louisiana. And I just, we were very, very close to the program. My dad had helped build it. And so I was probably prouder of what it meant for our team, and what it meant for the success of the school and where it was going at the time that, I was glad it was me and not anybody else. And, I was a 6'3", 215-pound guy that could throw the football 70 yards and make some plays. And I got in an offense, and I was very, very lucky and blessed to be in an Evangel offense that was ahead of its time. 5 wides, 4 wides, no huddle, 1 back sets. We were wristbands before anybody was wearing the wristbands and just rocking and rolling down the field. So, we were breaking records, and I think a lot of that had to do with, that selection was we broke national records. Evangel was winning. I was also a decent baseball player, of course, as we talked about, and I got attention there. And so I think it just all kind of snowballed, and USA Today gave me that honor, which I was excited about. We did a few trips with some of the other, getting honored. I did a trip with the other players, and I remember Fred Taylor and Orlando Pace, some of the big names on that team that year that were a part of that honor that year, and I still have friendships with him today. I saw Fred at the Super Bowl, and I'm going to do a podcast with him. He has his podcast, The Pivot, with Ryan Clark now. It's just, you develop friendships along the way, but man, when I heard about it, I was honored. I knew I was going to be on there with a lot of studs, and I was appreciative.
You named 2 of the very best at their time, man. Fred Taylor when he went to Florida, and obviously when he became a pro player, Jacksonville mainly, great player Orlando Pace, Pro Bowler every year. Those are legends. And I'm going to say this, when you made that decision, because obviously everybody was looking forward to you going to LSU, but they all knew your baseball prowess. Dude, I'd heard about you in 9th grade. I was living in Atlanta. That was nuts. This kid that's like, scouts would go see you, and they said, when's he, he gets out in like 2 months, right? And they go, no, this kid's a freshman. That kind of thing kind of blew me away when I was hearing this. And then, you decide to play baseball, but then you decide to come back to LSU. Now, this is what I want to take people to. What made you come back to LSU, and how excited were you when you made that decision?
There are really 2 things. I had a 5-year no football clause in my contract with Wayne Huizinga, the owner of the Marlins, who's passed away now, owner of Waste Management, Blockbuster Records. He had signed me to that deal in '94, and he said, no, you're not playing any football anymore. So I knew that I wasn't going to get to play football for quite a while. And I go, you know what, 1st round pick, I'm going to go give my life to baseball. And I went up the ladder, struggled offensively, played good defensively, hit some home runs, had some production, was an RBI guy, played 3rd base, ended up playing 3rd base in AA. AAA, got called up in '97, was part of the World Series team. And I'm kind of going quick through this, but '98, I started opening day with Jim Leland, with the Marlins, with the big league club. He got the World Series ring, opening day. It was awesome, right? And then about 2 weeks into the season, I got hurt on a tag play at 3rd base. Sheffield from right field threw a ball in. I tagged a guy named Jeremy Burnitz, who played for the Brewers back in the day, a hefty guy, slid over my thumb, messed up all the ligaments. Rehab for about 4 months, and then went to AAA Charlotte. And I batted about 110 in September, or late in the season, at the end of the season. And I was like, man, I just did not like being in the minor leagues. I experienced the big leagues. I was kind of frustrated with my hand and the way I was hitting it. And my brother, Abram, was a wide receiver, starting receiver at LSU at X. And he had a phenomenal year and was freshman All-SEC. And I'm like, I went home that off season and I'm like, I'm not going to winter ball. I'm going to LSU. And I decided to do it. Well, the thing that happened for me that nobody knows about except really people close to me, John Henry bought the team from Wayne Huizinga. And John Henry, who now on the Red Sox, he let me go out of that last year of that contract. I had to pay a AAA salary back to the organization, and I was free from the last year. And so I called Jerry DiNardo up, who was the head coach.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Come play for you.
Yeah, you had DiNardo one year and Saban the other. I'm running out of time. There's a couple things I want to get in real quick, and Bull is one of them. But before you do that, you had Bo Jackson, then there was Deion Sanders, then Brian Jordan. The double, that meant something to you. And kind of give me a nutshell what it meant being the first quarterback to do that.
Big time, man. I always told my dad I was a big dreamer, right? My dad was a coach, and of course he pushed us like crazy to dream big. But I'm like, I'm going to be the first ever quarterback to play Major League Baseball, and it's never been done before. It still hadn't been done, but that was really my mindset going into the pro arena. Was, hey, I'm gonna play pro baseball, and I'm gonna go back and get to the NFL, and then I'm gonna go back and play pro baseball. That's what I was really wanting to do. And Bo and Deion are my favorite athletes all time, especially Deion Sanders. I'm still close to him. I talked to him.
Two of the greatest, baby.
And I love his approach to life.
I'm down to admit. I'm down to admit
his approach to life, but yeah.
He is one of those dudes. I was doing Braves, and by the way, don't get me started on your '97 Marlins. Don't get me started on your '97 Marlins because I was in the press box every Braves game, and that pitching zone you got from umpire Eric Gregg, Levon Hernandez was throwing strikes over 8 feet outside.
Levon Hernandez.
You know what happened. The Braves should have been in that World Series. That would have been, but you got it. You won. Congrats. Before I let you go, because I want you to come back live. You got to come back live when you come back in town, because I want to have you live to talk a lot more. I'm running out of time, but tell us what you're doing right now with Bula.
Yeah, me and my brother Jack are with a bunch of businessmen and athletes and entertainers. We're launching a company in October, a peer-to-peer social gambling app where you can challenge, dare, wager with friends for everybody to see. So we're taking the sports book out of it. It's transaction-based. We're going to do a lot of challenges, corporate challenges with Awesome Corporation, doing partnerships and promotions. But the root of it is really a chance for you to bet on yourself against your friends at video games or golf or football or high school football games. You can create your own lines in the social environment. It's going to be pretty awesome. It's like TikTok and Venmo combined. So we're bringing social to the next level, or call to action social is what we call it.
That's awesome, man. Hey, come back when you come in town for your event. Come back and stay and do a show with me here live. I want to have you, because there's so much more I want to get into with you.
100%.
All right. That's
100%. I'll be back.
So, Josh, when you do come in town, I have a couple gifts for you that we give to our guests. Mr. John's Steakhouse. We're going to give you a gift certificate there. That's one of the great restaurants here, as well as a Taz T-shirt. So I'll see you in about a month or so, and I'll give you those. And I look forward to you coming on the show live so we can get it. I got your buddies Rohan Davey, Herb Tyler, and then, of course, Jeff Wickersham coming next week. So I want to thank you, Josh, and we'll catch up with you soon, buddy.
Thank you for having me, brother. It means a lot to me. Good luck, baby. I'll talk to you soon.
Good luck with your new venture as well, buddy. Hey, also, we talked Saints, we just talked LSU, but now we're going to go switch gears real quick, and we're going to get into the dome renovations, man. We have the guy that runs the entire dome. He got appointed by the governor. His name's Kyle France. He's going to tell you all about the $600 million that they spent and what you can do with it when you go to the games coming up in the beginning of the season. We're coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Last but not least, well, I've known this guy for almost 40 years. Actually, let's make it 44. I was in 8th grade when he was a senior, playing basketball at De La Salle. And by the way, Kyle France, I went to De La Salle, big event. I didn't see you there on Saturday, but we'll talk real quick. This is Kyle France. He is the chairman of the LSCD. You came on the show about 5-6 years ago. Then I had you on again last year. And Kyle, you were talking about the renovations to the dome last year, but now it's becoming really real, and now the Saints fans are going to start pouring in. We have, I believe, one more home preseason game, right?
Right, this weekend.
And then you're going to have the regular season. So First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Scott.
It's good to see you.
Proud of the work you do and happy to be here.
Thank you. And by the way, if you don't know how this works, the governor appoints the chairman of the LSED, Louisiana Sports Exposition District, and that person is in charge with this committee of running the stadiums in the state, state-owned stadiums, the Superdome being one, the Smoothie King Center being another. They're all over. The Baby Cakes Old Stadium, which is now the NOLA Gold Stadium, and perhaps USFL, who knows, one day. But the fact is it's a big job, and he's been doing it now for almost 8 years, and he's done a fabulous job. So I just wanted people to know that before we started. Let's start there. This job, was it anything like you thought it would be? Because I remember you telling me when you first got it, you said the governor, you came in to have a discussion, and you were going to give suggestions on who you thought it should be. I remember it like yesterday. And then he said, well, I think it should be you. And then you were floored. Okay, so let's go from that moment to where you are now. Take me through it, and was it anything like you thought it'd be?
No, and you know, being born and raised in New Orleans, it's been the appointment of a lifetime for me. I've been blessed to serve on many boards. But to work under this governor has been really, really neat. And I think the world of John Bell Edwards.
Yeah, I do too.
I hope and pray the next governor will continue the work that this commission has done for the Superdome, and which ultimately helps the city of New Orleans.
Right.
So that, you know, he's been spectacular to work with. He's not a micromanager. I call and update him periodically. But he
lets you do your job.
Lets you do.
He gave you the job, and he's letting you do it. That's interesting. Okay.
He told me from day one. He said, you know, if I wanted to run it, I would have appointed myself, which I don't know if constitutionally if he can do that.
Right.
But he appointed 6 other members with me.
Right.
And all of them have been tremendous members of this board, and I'm proud to serve with all.
No, and I've gotten to meet several of them, and y'all have done a fabulous job. I mean, obviously I was involved with the NOLA Gold stuff. Just fabulous. I mean, I love the inner workings of it. Now, let me ask you this. Let's take the fans back to when the first discussion started about the Dome. Can you kind of give us a time frame when that might have been about the renovations and what y'all were going to do, and then take us through that time?
When we first got on the board, ASM, Doug Thornton and the crew came to us and said, this is something we really need to push. And we started those conversations, ultimately led to interviewing architect groups.
Yeah. And that's a process, right?
It's a real process.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. How do you decide that? Who
we had a committee that involved LSED, ASM, and the Saints.
Now, ASM, explain that to people. Doug Thornton's been synonymous with the Dome for many years, but explain who
ASM is the management group that manages the facility, day-to-day operations of the Dome and the arena.
Gotcha.
We have other facilities, as you said. Well, they do the Shrine and Airline as well.
Smoothie King Center.
TPC.
Oh, TPC.
As well.
Yes.
That comes under our venue, and now we're building a destination ballpark in Westwego.
Oh, really?
Really close to the Hilario Center. This will be a world-class kids destination baseball, soccer.
That is really good to know, because I know a few years ago I was talking to Dennis Lauscher about and Greg Bensel about them doing that somewhere, right?
Right.
And I didn't know that was coming to fruition. So that's going to be over there in Westwego.
Well, that's the LSED doing that.
Cool.
And with turf fields, so there'll be, you know, it's going to be really neat. So if you go around the country, Scott, and see some of these baseball fields that are kid-centric, kid baseball, these things have been incredibly successful.
Okay.
So this is a bill that they will come.
So that's under y'all's thing. That's interesting. It's Little League. Okay, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
Will, our producer's putting up some shots of the Dome. Listen, I think everybody's eager to see what's happening. So why don't we just start there? What's going on?
I'll talk to. So we're in phase 3B now. 3B is the largest phase of the renovation. This involves what the fans will see this season is new atriums in gate B and H.
Right.
They will see escalators going up from the 200 level to the 500 level in northeast and northwest quadrants.
Okay.
And then from the 500 level, they'll go to the 650 level on another escalator. Obviously, extending the concourses and more food venue places for the fans.
Okay.
I think we probably have the longest bar in the world now in the Superdome.
Is this it?
Yeah. I think
okay, where exactly is that?
That's on the 300 level, I believe,
Okay.
if I'm seeing correctly.
A club?
But, yeah, so you've got that, but all of the things that we've done are really to enhance the fan experience in the dome. Remember, the Saints are one tenant in this Superdome.
Right.
We have a lot of other people that use the Superdome for flag shows and things like that.
Absolutely.
Concerts, Beyonce. We have the Bayou
Taylor
Classic.
Swift's coming, didn't she? I mean,
Taylor Swift.
Beyonce, those are two big ones right there.
Essence Festival.
Oh, yeah. Essence
So we have a lot in that dome that people don't realize.
Yeah.
We only use it half the year for the Saints.
Sure.
No, we use it year round.
8 or 9 games. That's it. Maybe playoffs too, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me say this. The Dome, I had a flashback seeing these pictures because, like yourself, a kid of New Orleans, I remember when I first went. I was 10 years old. It was 1975, and the Saints played their first season. I lived next to Tulane Stadium in the old days, the big one.
Right.
When it was 80,000 people, and I went there, and I remember thinking this was a marvel. And I remember, the ramps. We all have stories of running down the ramps as kids when the game got out of hand.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I'm looking at this. It looks so state of the art when I see these pictures, and it's just like. It's almost like you built a new stadium within our stadium because most people tear it down. They may build one in a more desirable area than it was before, or maybe it could be close by, but it's totally different and new. We decided to keep the iconic dome, which is iconic for our city and has been for 50 years. Or close to it. But the fact is y'all decided to build it here and do it there. So kind of give the thought process of that whole thing.
Well, first off, the location of the Dome right now, there is no better place in the city of New Orleans than that. Walking distance to 50,000 hotel rooms. The civil engineering underneath that Superdome is cost prohibitive. So to build it somewhere else, understanding being 8 feet below sea level here in New Orleans, is difficult, if not impossible, to do in a cost-effective manner. To build a new stadium would be in the $3 billion range here in New Orleans. Why do that when we have the most iconic facility in the NFL? We still rank in the top 5 of all NFL venues, and that includes all of these new stadiums that are coming on board. So we're really in a great place, I think, for what we're doing here with the Superdome. This will give us another 30 to 40 years use.
Right.
And ultimately, they could take out the entire interior of that dome and rebuild it in a way for that time and place that works for that time. So I think we're very, and for $550 million to $530 million, we basically have a new stadium.
This will be the first year that I'm not going to be at every game in the press box. For years, I was working on the games with the announcers.
We did a whole new elevator for the media, so you're going to miss that.
Well, did you really? That's why I was going with it. Now I don't care anymore.
Right.
I'm going as a fan. I'm sitting out there. So that was my one complaint. I just didn't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, because they had the littlest elevator, so you got a whole new one now?
Whole new elevator.
I might have to go back and go the whole
media only.
Because I know my producer and the other guys are now going in my place, which is great because they love it.
Yep.
So now they're going to have, we had to wait, but now it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about with the fan. I hear when you blow out walls, I don't have a picture of what this means yet. Like, do y'all do anything in the terrace level? I mean, how does this work?
Oh yeah, terrace.
That's what I'm curious. How does that going to look?
One of the nicest things we've done with this renovation, which was a focus of this board when we got on, this stadium was built pre-ADA.
Yes.
Americans with Disability Act.
Yes, sure.
So accessibility for our handicapped
100%.
Folks was limited at best. We have totally changed that dynamic, and
so they
we've done
the
things.
Terrace now?
They've done seating areas on all these levels where it's affording more ADA compliance. For that, I'm very, very happy about.
No, you should be proud of that. That's a big deal, man.
Important thing. Very hard to take an old facility, do what we're doing now, and make it compliant. We still have a ways to go relative to ADA, but we've come a long way, so I'm very proud of that. Now, Scott, you'll still be able to run up and down the ramps on the north and south end. The other
Not
ramp,
as fast as I used to, but I'll try.
the other ramps are out, and the reason why we took those out is so we could push the walls back.
That's what you did. That's what. Okay.
That was usable space that was not being used appropriately. So that's how we've gotten the space that we've gotten now.
I'm dying to see what that looks like now, because I'm trying to envision it. And I kept thinking, I hope they did some of the terrace, because there's so many fans that are so loyal that have been in the terrace for years. And I remember I didn't sit much in the terrace growing up, but I've gone a few times, because when your press box is above the terrace, but I've gone a few times and sat there. I'm like, these are damn good seats. These are good. You see the whole field. I mean, when you get real high, it gets a little scary. But the fact is go halfway up. And there's not really a bad. I used to think that these have got to be terrible seats. They're not.
No.
You have a good view of the whole place.
In the terrace, I don't know if you remember this, but they used to sell $2 tickets for the Jazz when Pistol Pete was here.
$2 and $1. Of course, I remember this. I went to every game.
I'd go up there and watch those games then. But now
it's far for basketball, though.
Yeah, with these escalators going up from the 200 level all the way to the 500 level, and at the 500 level, you get on a new escalator, another escalator, and go up to the 650 level, which is the area that we're talking about.
Right.
With ADA and those kinds of things added. But there are other things fans saw last year, the suites on the field. They saw more ADA things.
How was that received, by the way?
It was great.
I know everybody loved it, but I mean,
Saints sold out.
No complaints about the sight lines or nothing. I mean, okay, just curious.
I'm not a fan of sitting there because you can't really see the field.
Right.
But some folks
unless they're
like
coming
that.
in your end zone, you can see. They're right there in front of you.
The Saints, they sold those out quickly.
Oh, I'm sure. Those had to be popular.
Yeah. So it's been good. Look, the Saints are very happy with this. They've been a part of this process. It hasn't been easy. For any of us.
The Saints own the dome, though, right?
No, the Saints don't own the dome.
Okay. I know. I'm just kidding.
We have a piece. You and I have a piece.
The taxpayers own the dome, right?
Taxpayers of Louisiana. So people up in Shreveport, Monroe, Lafayette. I've done radio shows all over the state. I've been on Jordy Halberg's show. I've been up Billy West up in Shreveport.
Teammate.
Yep. So we, the taxpayers, own the Superdome, and the board is really cognizant of that, and we're really focused on representing the taxpayers of the state. So we're proud of that.
What's the one thing that the fans, when they first walk in, that they're going to be surprised to see?
I think they're going to be surprised at the atriums and the B&H at the B&H gates with the light that's in there.
Where are the B&H gates? Like, which street is that off of?
You got A on Poydras, B I think is might be on this side, Scott. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
But and then they'll see these escalators that look like a Disney World ride that you can get on. They keep going. They'll be surprised at that. And then all of the areas, the bar areas and things like that, which have been totally redone. The club sections where people can go out and stand at the bar and visit. I think they'll be surprised at that too. So it's all good. $530 million. We're about our spend right now is at about 270 or 280.
Wow.
We've got to finish the phase 3B will be done before next football season. So right after this football season, after the Sugar Bowl, or if the Saints continue to play in the playoffs, we'll shut down. We'll start back at it.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. Congratulations on 8 great years. I don't know what your future holds, whether you're going to be back in this gig or not, but great job, buddy.
Thank you.
Great job,
Appreciate
for real.
You.
So you're going to be a recipient of the first thing. We continue to give Shays Dallas gift certificates, but I have a new sponsor. So every other guest is going to get one of these. Mr. John's Steakhouse.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of my favorites. That'll get you started. But it's a nice little thing to start with.
Desi's a good friend. Yeah.
And then Desi has been a good friend to me too. And I was like, hey, we were going to do Desi's, and then we tried to do Mr. John's. And I think they're both phenomenal.
Yeah.
But and this is Task Performance. And if you need a different size, just let me know.
Thank you, bud.
That is my favorite. We give those shirts. They're the softest things. That's Kyle France right now. and congrats on everything, and good luck in your future, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Hey, by the way, I want to thank everybody. Josh Booty, he was phenomenal. And then, of course, we had such a great start right here. We had Paul Sanchez talking about the New Orleans Saints. I didn't know the musician knew that much about it, but I've been digging into Tulane LSU. I wanted to get some Saints stuff before the actual season. But next week, we're going to go back to some LSU. I got Rohan Davey. He's coming live. We also got my man Jeff Wickersham. We've also got, well, Herb Tyler. I've had him booked for 2 months. I cannot wait. That's 3 different decades of players coming here on Primetime Sports next week. I want to thank my man Will Hill, Logan Graffia, and of course Alex Chacon, and then the men that run this station, Jim Dotson, and of course Ron Yeager. I want to thank you all. We'll see you next week right here on Primetime Sports.